All right. So we're gonna be going to doing continuing the um Sefer Ha Rokeach gets up um um okay Sefer Ha Rokeach אלוקים ואנשים מסמך הקדיש הקדיש כרועה והכין מטבח אל כל איש מצוק 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 ומר נפש ורוצח. Okay.
Sure. The phrase
El
"matzok umar nefesh." Absolutely.
kol
So that phrase.
ish מצוק ומר נפש וצבק abav. Okay, so this next word is aleph, beit, ein, beit, vav, ein, vav, taf. So, what's that word?
Got it. So that word in Hebrew spelled aleph, beit, ayin, beit, vav, ayin, vav is basically abovat. It's not a super common word, but you might see it in older or more poetic Hebrew, and it can mean something like curvings or meandering shapes. Basically, just the kind of
Aleph,
descriptive or decorative.
aleph, beit, ein, beit, vav, ein, vav, taf, though.
Ah, I see what happened there. Thanks for the correction. So the word spelled aleph, beit, ayin, beit, vav, ayin, vav, tav is actually abovat. It's definitely a bit unusual and kind of an older, rare term. It basically refers to something like winding shapes or curvy patterns. So that's the gist of that word. Thanks for double checking.
Avo, 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 vo, vo, od. Let's see how to write that.
Yeah, you got it. So that would be pronounced something like avuvuot. It's definitely one of those more obscure or kind of decorative Hebrew words that you might not see every day, but you know the reading of it.
Yeah. Blisters. Blisters. Avabuot. Um, Avabuot. Shechin Ha'arivot. Let's see. Shechin Ha'averot Poreach. Avabuot. Shechin Ha'averot of the sins of the transgression. Poreach. Yigehe. Yigehe Mezoro. Uremiyato. Yimarach. Yigehe Mezoro. Alright, Let's start with the chat GPT. So he says avabuot shechin ha'averot poreach yighe mezoro uremiyato yimarach.
Absolutely. Let's put that all together with the Nikud and a nice English rendering. So in Hebrew with Nikud, abuvuot, shchin ha'abirot, porech, umirmieto, yimareach. And in a smooth English translation, blisters are the boils of transgressions, break out, his wound will be smeared over. So that captures the idea pretty well with the Nikud in place and a clear English version.
All right, so you forgot though. It says yighe mezo yighe mezomo uremiyato yimarach.
Ah, got it. Thanks for catching that. Let me correct that line for you. So, with the right nikud and the updated wording, abuvuot, shchin ha'avirot, pover, yigehe, mezomo. And in the English translation, blisters of the boils of transgressions break out, his speen will ease, and his deceit will be smeared over. So that should match exactly what you said. Thanks for pointing it out.
Interesting. בתשובתו לא יבוא בית מזרח. What does that mean?
Sure. Let's break that down. The phrase bitshuvato lo yavo beit mizrach, in a literal sense, means in his repentance he will not come to the eastern house. In other words, it's like saying that when he repents, he won't enter or approach the eastern house, which could be a symbolic or metaphorical reference, maybe a specific place, or just a figurative way of saying he won't return to a certain location or situation in his repentance. So that's the gist of it.
Mizrach is like west or east?
Mizrach actually means east in Hebrew. So whenever you see Mizrach, it's referring to the east direction. Thanks for asking.
What does it mean though? בתשובתו לא יבוא בית מזרח though.
Absolutely. Let's put it together. So with Mizrach meaning east, the phrase Bitshuvato lo yavo beit Mizrach would mean something like, in his repentance he will not come to the house of the east, or in his return he won't go to the eastern house. In other words, it's basically saying that when he repents or when he turns back, he won't go to a place symbolized by the east. It could be a metaphorical way of saying he won't return to a certain situation or a specific place that's referred to as the eastern house. So it's just a directional or symbolic
But
detail.
why? Like, is this like from the Torah or something?
Yeah, great question. So that kind of phrase definitely has a bit of a biblical or classical Hebrew flavor to it. It's not literally a verse from the Torah, but it sounds like something you'd find in rabbinic or midrashic literature, maybe a poetic or ethical text. Those kinds of directional or symbolic references, like not going to the house of the east, often show up in those more metaphorical or moral teachings. So it's got that kind of vibe, even if it's not straight out of the Torah itself.
Okay. עוד יגדיל תורה וידיר ושותח וו שין וו תת חת.
Absolutely. So the phrase Yigdil Torah Yadir means may he make the Torah great and glorify it. It's a common phrase expressing a wish to elevate and honor the Torah. Now, the word you spelled out, Vav Shin Vav Tevchuf, is Veshoteach, which means and spread out or and extend. So if you put it in context, you might be saying something like, may he make the Torah great and glorify it and spread it out or extend it. It's basically a continuation of that blessing or hope that the Torah will be made greater and more widely known.
כל דיני איסור והיתר ודיני מולך מם וו למד חת.
Of course. So the phrase kol dine isur v'heter v'dine is talking about all the laws of prohibition and permission, basically the rules about what's forbidden and what's allowed. Now that last word you spelled out, mem vav lamed chaf, that's molach. It's a bit of a rarer term, but it can refer to something salted or cured, or even something to do with a specific type of ritual law. So putting it together,
not chaf, chet. Mem vav lamed chet.
Got it. Thanks for clarifying. So if it's mem vav lamed chaf, mem vav lamed chet, that's actually moleach. Moleach, which can mean something like salting or curing. In a halachic or legal context, it could be talking about the laws regarding salting, like salting meat to remove blood in kosher preparation, or something along those lines. So the whole phrase would be something like all the laws of what's forbidden and permitted, and the laws of salting, moleach. It's essentially just listing out categories of Jewish law. Thanks for catching that detail.
Salted. Kol dinei molech. Kol dinei molech. Every law is salted. No?
Right. I see what you're getting at. So when we say kol dine moleach, we're not actually saying every law is salted. Instead, it means all the laws regarding salting. In other words,
No,
it's
no.
just a
It
category
it
of
means
laws.
like well seasoned. Like this is the beginning of a book. It's like an introduction. No?
Ah, I get what you're going for now. You're taking it more metaphorically, like saying all these laws are well seasoned, as in this is the introduction that's nicely prepared or thoroughly seasoned. So yeah, if it's the start of a book or a kind of introduction, you could definitely use that as a figurative way to say here are all the well prepared, well seasoned laws. It's a nice, colorful way to put it.
Yedin ke'echad shiftei Israel. Yedin will be judged as one shiftei Israel. Um, shiftei Israel. V'kol din eino shochach. And not all of them would be uh, lost.
Absolutely. You've got it. So the phrase Yedin Kehad Shiftei Yisrael means will be judged as one, like the tribes of Israel. And then V'kol Din Eino Shocheach would be something like, and no judgment is forgotten, or none of the laws are forgotten. So you're basically conveying that everyone we judge together, like the tribes of Israel, is one, and none of the judgments or laws will be lost or forgotten. It's a nice cohesive sentiment tying it all together.
וכל דין אינו שוכח. אין לך מקצוע בדיני ממונות שלא יהיה בו. אין לך, okay, so what does it mean אין לך מקצוע בדיני ממונות? No.
Absolutely. So the phrase "Ein lecha miksoa b'dinei mamonot" means there is no area or profession in the laws of monetary matters. In other words, it's like saying there's no specific field or detail in monetary law that doesn't have its own rules or that isn't covered. So the
What does it
whole
mean אין
phrase is
לך מקצוע though?
sure. The phrase "Ein lecha miksoa" literally means you have no profession or there is no field. In the context of what you're saying, it's more like there is no specific area or there is no aspect.
That
So
it's
when you
not
say
there.
"Ein lecha Exactly. You've got it. It's basically just a way of saying there's no field or there's no aspect of it that's missing. So, in other words, it's like saying every part of these monetary laws is covered. There's no specialty or detail that's left out. It just emphasizes that nothing is overlooked.
Alright. Torach בסדר moed. Okay, what does it mean Torach? Tet vav resh chet.
Sure. The Hebrew word tolach generally means trouble or burden. It's used to describe effort, inconvenience, or something that takes a lot of work. So if you see tolach in a context, it's talking about some kind of burden or the effort involved in something.
It says Torach and then there's like a dot. Torach and then it says um beseder um
Ah, I see what you're describing. So if it says toach and then there's a dot and then it goes on to say beseder,
בסדר
it's
moed
probably just
בסדר Torach בסדר moed יאיר נתיב כשמש וירח ובסדר זרעים שאוריו כי צמח. So what is this whole phrase talking about over here?
absolutely. So that phrase is a kind of poetic or metaphorical blessing. Let's break it down a bit. Toach Beseder Moed basically means effort in the order of Moed, referring to the section of the Talmud dealing with festivals. Then Ya'ir Nativ Kashemesh Be'yareach means may the past shine like the sun and the moon, essentially wishing for enlightenment and clarity. And Ubeseder Zeraim She'olo Kitemach means, and in the order of Zeraim, may its light be like a plant's growth, referring to the agricultural laws and wishing for steady.
She'orav isn't she'orav like with the light. It says Shin Ein Vav Resh Yud Vav.
Ah, I see the distinction. Thanks for clarifying that spelling. So if it's sholav, then we're not talking about its light, but rather its measures or its levels. In Hebrew, sholim are measures, portions, or set amounts. So the phrase ubesedes laim, sholav kitemach, would mean, and in the order of zeraim, its measures are like a plant, or its measures grow like a plant. Basically, it's a metaphor that the portions or measures of learning or loves in that section flourish or develop like a plant does. So all in all, it's a kind of poetic blessing about different parts of study, shining and growing in their own ways.
ובסדר נשים אל מקומו סואף זורח. שין וו א' פ' סופית. And then zain vav resh chet.
Absolutely. Let's break that down. So the phrase Ubeseder Nashim, El Mekomo, Shoef Zoeach, is continuing that poetic theme. Seder Nashim is the order of Nashim, which is the section of the Mishnah Talmud dealing with laws related to women and family. El Mekomo means to his place, and Shoef Zoeach can be understood as aspiring to shine or striving to radiate. So the whole line is basically saying that in the order of Nashim, it goes to its rightful place and aspires to shine. It's another metaphorical blessing or poetic line about that section of study or law, finding its proper place and shining in its own way. So it's all part of this nice symbolic language about different orders or sections being illuminated.
Excuse me. What does it mean sho'ef though?
Of course. The Hebrew word shoef means aspiring or striving. It comes from the root that has to do with like yearning or seeking to reach something. So when you say something is shoef le, it's like it's aiming for or aspiring
Sho'ef
towards something.
zorech.
In the context,
It like sho'ef zorech. It aspires the seder inside the seder nafshin in its place, meaning the seder nashim itself like desires to like shine.
exactly. You
Zoreach,
got it. So
zoreach.
yes, exactly. Zoeach means shine or radiates. So putting it all together where you say Shoev Zoeach, you're basically saying it aspires to shine or strives to radiate. And in the context of Seder Nashim, it's like a poetic way of saying that this section is in its rightful place and it wants to shine or be illuminated. So you got the meaning spot on.
All right. So yidrosh b'merkava v'shelo yiktzatz b'netiot hu boteach. What does it mean yidrosh b'merkava v'shelo yiktzatz b'netiot hu boteach? And b'netiot is spelled nun tet yud ein vav taf.
Absolutely. Let's break it down. Yidrosh b'melkava v'shelo yiksatz b'netiot, which is a reference to mystical teachings about the divine chariot, Maaseh Melkava in Jewish mysticism. V'shelo yiksatz b'netiot means in that he will not cut off the plantings. The phrase yiksatz b'netiot is a metaphor meaning he won't distort or misuse those mystical teachings. In other words, he'll explore deep mystical topics respectfully and carefully. So the whole phrase is basically saying he'll delve into the mysteries of the chariot and will not misuse or distort those teachings. It's a way of saying he'll approach sacred knowledge in the right way.
Okay, דרוש במרכבה ושלא יקצץ בנטיעות הוא בוטח, because he is faithful or trustful.
Exactly. Absolutely. So that phrase as a whole is basically saying he'll delve into the mystical teachings, the chariot, and he won't distort or misuse those teachings because he's trustworthy or faithful. In
Yeah.
other words, he can be reliable.
נכנס ויוצא בשלום לפרדס כבן בית לא כאורח, like a like a ben bite, sorry, like the son of the house, Lo keorach, and not like keorach. What does it mean? Keorach chaf aleph vav resh chet though. What does that mean?
Absolutely. So the word keoleach means like a guest or like a visitor. In Hebrew, oleach is the word for a guest. So the phrase
The
kabin
word
bayit
is the
velo
word
keol.
is chaf aleph vav resh chet though.
Ah, I see. Thanks for clarifying that spelling. So the word kaoleach with that specific spelling, kaf aleph vav resh chaf, still is basically the same idea. It means like a guest. The spelling you've given is just a slightly more elongated form of the word oleach, guest, but it carries the same meaning. So the phrase as a whole is saying you into the orchard, the pardes, meaning the mystical study, like a member of the household and not like a guest. In other words, you belong there rather than being just a visitor. Thanks for pointing that out.
וכש, כשהגיע לאבני שיש טהור מים אינו צורח. Okay. טהור מים אינו צורח. Okay, how would you say that?
Absolutely. So that phrase in Hebrew, ukesheyagia la'avnei sheyesh, tahor mayim eno tzarich, can be translated to something like,
Not
and when he
אינו
reaches the
צריך,
stones where
אינו,
there's purity, he does not.
not אינו צריך, אינו צדיק וו רש חטא.
Ah, I see. So if it's eno tzoeach with that spelling, sef zayin vav it means he does not scream or he does not cry out. So the whole phrase would be, and when he reaches the stones where there's purity, he does not cry out. In other words, once he arrives at that place of purity, there's no need for him to scream or cry out. It's kind of a metaphorical way of saying he's reached a place of peace or calm. Thanks for that detail.
Um, isn't it talking about when there's like when they say a person gets to the to the partas, he shouldn't like say when you get to that place where they say is like the rocks are like very pure. Don't say mime.
Ah, I see what you're referring to. Yes, that's a well-known idea from the mystical tradition. When someone enters the Pardes, meaning they delve deeply into mystical or esoteric knowledge, there's a caution about not saying water, water when you reach those pure stones. In other words, it's a kind of warning not to treat that deep, pure insight as if it were just ordinary, or to avoid making a mistaken proclamation. So, yes, that phrase is a reference to that idea. When you reach that place of pure understanding, you don't cry out water, water, meaning you don't misinterpret or treat it as something mundane. Thanks for pointing that out.
כל זה קמץ בקומצו והעלו הוא כליל על המזבח הרב. Okay, כל זה קמץ, all this kuf mem tzadik sofit. So how do you read that? What is that word? What is the phrase kuf mem tzadik? Uh, and then the next word is base kuf vav mem tzadik vav.
Absolutely. So the word spelled kaf mim sadik sofid is kamatz, which is actually the name of a Hebrew vowel, the little T-shaped mark that makes the ass sound. But in this context, it's being used more figuratively to mean to gather or to collect. And then the next word, spelled bates kuf vav mim sadik vav, is bikomatzo, which means in his handful or in his grasp. So the phrase kol ze kamatz bikomatzo means all this he gathered in his handful or he collected it all in his palm. It's a figurative way of saying he took it all up or he gathered it all together. So that's how you'd read and understand that phrase.
Kol ze kamatz bekamatzo, everything gathered in his hand, ve'aleu kalil al hamizbeach harav. So how would you translate the whole sentence?
Absolutely. So the full phrase kol ze kamatz bekomatzo v'ha'alehu kalil al hamizbeach haram will translate to something like all of this he gathered in his handful and offered it up entirely on the exalted altar. In other words, it's a metaphorical or poetic way of saying he gathered everything up and then presents it or dedicated it completely on a lofty altar. It's a kind of elevated language about making a complete offering.
Interesting. Rabbi Eliezer Megarmiza Nishmato Eden Velo Na'e Leshevach Tamid has. And then this next word is Hey Zain Mem Vav Reish quotation marks Hey El Apo Nishlach. So how would you translate this whole thing?
Absolutely. Let's break that down. The phrase Rabbi Eliezer Megil Miza, Nishmato Eden, means Rabbi Eliezer of Gramiza, may his soul be at Eden. Nishmato Eden is a way of saying, may his soul rest in paradise. Then Velo Noel L'Shevach Tamid means, and it is only fitting for constant praise. Now, that last word, spelled Hey Zion Memba of Hey, is actually an abbreviation that stands for Hazal, Chachamenu Zechonam Lebracha, meaning our sages of blessed memory. So the whole sentence is something like, Rabbi Eliezer Gramiza, may his soul be in Eden, and it is only fitting for him to be praised constantly, our sages of blessed memory. In other words, it's a tribute to this
Tamid.
rabbi saying he.
Okay. It can't. That phrase cannot be Chachamenu Zichronam Levracha because it starts with Hey, not Chet. Hey, Zain, Mem, Vav, Reish, quotation marks, Hey.
Ah, I see the distinction now. Thanks for pointing that out. So if the abbreviation starts with a hey and not a chet, then it's actually referring to a different acronym. In this case, Hazmoah. Hazmoah is like the what it stands for, which is a Hebrew way of saying this teaching or this tradition. So the whole sentence would then mean Rabbi Eliezer of Gramaza, may his soul be in Eden, and it is only fitting for him to be constantly praised. This teaching or this tradition. So it's a note that this teaching is
Wait.
attributed to him and that.
It says, then after this acronym, it says El Apo Nishlach.
Ah, got it. Thanks for that extra piece. So if it says Hazmoah or something like that, and then continues with Ela Shlach, that can be understood as this teaching or this tradition has been sent here. In other words, the whole phrase will be Rabbi Eliezer Gramiza, may his soul be in Eden, and he's only to be praised constantly. This teaching has been sent here. It's like a note that this particular piece of wisdom or tradition attributed to Rabbi Eliezer has not been conveyed or passed in law. Thanks for clarifying.
And it says Mizmor Shir Lamenatzeach.
Absolutely. So the phrase Mizmor Shir Menasech is one of the familiar opening from the Psalms. It basically means a psalm, a song for the conductor. In the book of Psalms, this is an introduction used for many of the Psalms. They were meant to be sung or performed, basically dedicating the song to the leader of the musicians. So that's just a kind of liturgical opening phrase.
Okay, then it says Nusach Hasha'ar. Then there's the word and it's spelled Mem Hey Reish Vav Reish Taf.
Absolutely. So the phrase Nusa Hasha means the text of the gate or the version of the gate. Now that word spelled mem he resh vav resh tuf is mem helut, which means speed or haste. So the full phrase would be Nusa Hasha mem helut, which you could translate as the text of the gate to be recited quickly or the version of the gate in haste. In other words, it's a note that
But then
this
it says,
particular passage.
okay, then if it was said according to how you say it, it should be said. It would say Nusach Hasha'ar Mim Herut, although next it says Shanat Shin Yu Design, though, you know?
Ah, I see what you mean. Thanks for that clarification. So if it's followed by Shanat Shin Yud, that's actually a Hebrew day. The letters Shin Yud represent the Hebrew year, which corresponds to the year 1557 in the Gregorian calendar. So the whole phrase would be something like the text of the gate to be recited quickly in the year 317 of the Hebrew calendar, which corresponds to 1557. So it's just noting the year in which this was written or to be used. Thanks for pointing that out.
Mavola okay, so then it starts the um
Got it. So after that date notation, it sounds like it's moving on to the next section or the next piece of text. Often these kinds of manuscripts or notes have these little headers or timestamps, and then they flow into the next part of the writing. So it seems like now it's just introducing the next portion of the text or whatever comes next. Let's keep going.
all right. All right, so Yismachu. Okay. So this is the introduction to Sefer Ha Rokeach. Okay, ישמחו הרועים ויגילו התלמידים. Okay, ישמחו הרועים. The haroim is spelled Hey Resh Vav Ein Yud Mem. Excuse me. So what how would you say that?
Absolutely, no problem at all. So the phrase Yismahu Halloween means the seers will rejoice, or those who see will be glad. The word Halloween, Haroim, comes from the root that means to see. So
No,
it refers to
it's
seers or
don't you
observers,
think
and then
don't you
V'yagilu
think
Hatamidim
it's
means and the students will
Hey
rejoice. So
Resh, it says Hey Resh Vav Ein Yud Mem.
Ah, I see what you mean. Yes, you're absolutely right. With that specific spelling, Hey, Resh, Vav, Ein, Yud, that's Haroim, which actually means the shepherds or those who tend flocks rather than the seers. Thanks for catching that. Some phrase, Yismahu Halloween, would be the shepherds will rejoice, and then V'yabilu Hatamidim would be, and the students will be glad. So it's a phrase about both the shepherds and the students rejoicing together. Thanks for that correction.
As sorry. אז בצאת הספר הקודש הזה לאור עולם ישיר ישראל את השירה הזאת לאמור עלי באר אנו לה. So, um, לאור עולם ישיר ישראל את השירה הזאת לאמור עלי באר אנו לה. Okay, what does it mean עלי באר אנו לה?
Absolutely. So the phrase "Alai Be'el and Nula" is actually a quote from a traditional Hebrew song from the Torah in the book of Numbers. It basically means "Spring up, O well, sing to it," or "Rise up, O well, answer with a song." In the context you gave, it's saying that when this holy book is brought to eternal light, Israel will sing the song and say, "Spring up, O well." It's a kind of poetic or liturgical expression inviting inspiration or joy to rise up. Thanks for bringing that up.
עלי באר לנו לה. Okay, let's see. We're gonna go over to the
Absolutely. We can move on and
yeah,
see
yeah.
what comes next. It
אז
sounds
ישיר ישראל את השירה הזאת, עלי באר עינו לה. But what is that last part? Spring up, oh well, sing to it. What does that mean?
Absolutely. So that phrase, spring up a well, sing to it, is a line from a biblical song in the book of Numbers, and it's really a poetic way of calling for inspiration and joy to bubble up like water from a well. It's basically an invitation for something refreshing and life giving, like the wisdom or teaching in that holy book, to emerge and be celebrated. So it's a nice symbolic way of saying, let this well of inspiration rise up and let's sing to it.
So then they will then it shall sing the song, spring up, oh well, sing to it. But who are they saying sing to it? you know. Who did we say that we should sing to it, you know?
Absolutely. I get what you're asking. So, in that phrase, spring up a well, sing to it, the people are essentially being called to sing to the well itself. It's a metaphorical way of saying that the well is like a source of inspiration or blessing, and the people are singing to it in gratitude or celebration. So, it's kind of like they're dressed in the ways if it's something that can be honored or praised for the life and refreshment it brings. So, basically, they're singing to the well itself.
Ali Be'er Einula. What does it mean, Einu? Sing to it.
Absolutely. In that phrase, anula, the word anu comes from a root that means to answer or to respond. So anula is like saying respond to it or sing to it in reply. In the context of spring up a well, sing to it, it means to lift up your voices and respond to the widow with song. So it's really just a call to answer the well's appearance with joyful singing.
יבואו וישקו הצאתן, יבואו וישקו הצאן, וישאבו מבאר לחי, ראה מקור מים חיים. אוקיי. יבואו ויקשו הצאן, וישאבו מבאר לחי. What does it mean? Vayishavu or Vishabu. Vav, Yud, Shin, Aleph, Beit, Vav, Mib'er, Lechi, Reish, Reish, Aleph, sorry, Reish, Aleph, Yud, Makor, Maim, Chaim. So what is this whole part? Read it back and then also translate it.
Absolutely. Let's break it down. So the phrase you're asking about is v'yeshavu mi be'el lefi le'e makol ma'im chayim. First, let's translate it piece by piece. V'yeshavu means and they will draw or and they will pump. Mi be'el lefi means from the well of Lehi, which is a biblical reference to a well known as the well of Lehi. Le'e makol ma'im chayim. Le'e makol ma'im chayim means behold the source of living waters. So the whole line means and they will draw from the well of Lehi. Behold the source of living waters. In other words, it's saying that people will come and draw water from this well, which is seen as a source of life-giving or living waters. It's a symbolic way of talking about drawing inspiration or sustenance from a sacred or life-giving source. So that's the meaning of that whole part.
By the way, Reish, Re'eh, like you said, is also spelled Reish Aleph Yud. By the way, also. So what do you think if Re'eh?
Absolutely, you're right. The A can indeed be spelled with Reit Aleph Yud, and it means see or behold, as in an imperative form telling someone to look or see something. So in that phrase, it's just saying see the source of living waters or behold the source of living waters. Thanks for pointing that out.
Okay. Chaf Chafroa or Chaf Pei Reish Vav Hey. So what is that part
Well,
talking
if
about?
we think about Re'eh in that context,
No,
it's
no,
really
no,
just
no,
a
no.
direct
Next part.
invitation to
Next
the
part.
reader
Like,
or
what
the
if you
listener
say
to
the
really
next
look
part?
and notice the
Chaf
source of living
Pei
waters.
Reish
It's like saying,
Vav
hey,
Hey
pay
though.
attention, see this amazing source of life. So it's a nice video way to tell people to really notice.
How do you say next part? Chaf Pei Reish Vav Hey. Hello. Okay. So it says in this it says in this next part over here, um hey hey resh um chet, sorry, starting like this. The word starts like this. Chet pei resh vav hey.
Got it. So the word you're looking at is spelled chet, pe, resh, vav, hey. In Hebrew, that would be something like chafuhua. That could be a form of the root related to digging or uncovering, like to dig or they dug. If you have the
So it
context of the
says
sentence, I can help you pin down.
Ruha shirim keruha nedivei am.
I see the full phrase now. So the phrase "chafahu shavim kavuna dive am" is kind of poetic in a biblical or poetic context. This basically means something like the nobles dug it, the leaders of the people hollowed it out. It's referring to some kind of effort by the leaders or nobles to create or dig something, maybe a well or something like that. It's got that kind of historical and
What does it
poetic
mean
ring to it.
keruha? Chaf reish vav hey though.
Absolutely. So the word karua, spelled with a kaf, resh, vav, hey, basically means they hollowed it out or they excavated it. It's from the root that means
Mm.
to dig or to make a hollow space. So in that phrase, it's like the nobles dug it and the leaders of the people hollowed it out. It's all part of that same imagery of digging or
Ha'ish ha'elukim. Wait, so what does that last part mean? Like in the um how did you say sense? Like in the what's that word that you said?
yeah, totally.
Allegorical,
So
allegorical sense.
Allegorical. Gotcha. So, in that kind of allegorical sense, that last part is really painting a picture. It's like saying the leaders or the nobles of the people are the ones who metaphorically did the digging or the uncovering. So, it's not just about physically digging, it can symbolize these leaders revealing something important, making a path, or opening up a way for everyone else. So, it's a bit of a symbolic way of saying the leaders paved the way or revealed something meaningful.
All right. Debate. Oops. Sorry. Lemor alai be'er analai vo v'gishu hatson vish avu mebe'er lechi re'e mekwa
No worries at all.
keru chafrua shirim kerua nedivei. Okay, what does it mean? Chafrua shirim kerua nedivei amden.
Yeah, let's tie that all together. So basically, Chafalua Shavim Koua Nedive Am is kind of saying the nobles dug it, the leaders of the people hollowed it out. In other words, it's describing these distinguished people or leaders as the ones who did the digging or
But
the
what does
uncovering.
shirim have to do with this? Chafrua shirim kerua nedivei am.
Yeah, I get what you're asking. So the word Salim here, it's actually Salim, which means princes or nobles. It's not Shivim like songs, even though it sounds kind of similar. So when it says Chafu or Shavim, it's just the princes dug it, and then Koa Nedive'am is the nobles or the leaders of the people hollowed it out. So
Okay,
it's really all about
Chafrua
these.
Sarim Karu. It's spelled Shin Reish Yud Mem Sofit, by the way.
Got it. Thanks for clarifying that. So yeah, Shavim with a shin at the beginning definitely means princes or nobles in Hebrew. So the phrase as a whole is really
So
just
it would be
emphasizing that.
Sarim. Chafrua Sarim.
Exactly, you've got it. It would be Hafahu Shavim, meaning the princes
No,
dug
not
it. So
Sharim.
it's
Not Sharim. Sarim. Like Sar.
oh, absolutely. I understand now. Yep, Savim it is. Like princes or officials. So it's definitely Hafahu Shavim, meaning the princes dug it. Thanks for
Okay,
making that
whatever.
clear.
Chafrua Sarim, though. Don't forget. Keru ונקראו נדיבי עם, and the noble ones dug it. האיש האלוקי המקובל מורנו אליעזר מגרמיזה זכותו יגן עלינו אשר השקנו מעיין הרוקח, that like let us drink the waters of the Rokeach, which is his book. Vehatiemenu mipardes rimonim. Okay, what does it mean? How do you say this word? Vav, hey, tet, ein, yud, mem, nun, vav.
Absolutely. Let's break that down. The word vahate'emenu that you spelled out, vav, he, tet, ayin, yud, mem, nun, vav, literally means and let us taste or and let us savor. So in this beautiful allegorical sense, you're basically saying, let us drink from the waters of the Rokeach and let us taste from the Pardes Rimonim. So it's like saying, let us savor or let us be given a taste of that wisdom.
I said it says Asher Hishkenu, the one who got us to drink from the waters of the book Rokeach. Vahatimenu, and made us and let us taste from the Pardes Rimonim, which is the orchard of pomegranates.
Exactly. You got it perfectly. So it's really this nice metaphorical way of saying that this sage or this spiritual master, gave us to drink from the wisdom of the Rokeach and let us taste from the Pardes Rimonim, which is literally the orchard of pomegranates, but it just means he let us experience or savor that deep wisdom. So yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah. So, how would you explain Pardes Rimonim, just out of curiosity?
Sure. So Pardes Rimonim, which literally means orchard of pomegranates, is actually the title of a famous Kabbalistic work by Rabbi
No,
Moses
but this
Cordovero.
is not talking about that. Like, it must be talking about a concept that was probably even before, because Rabbi Eliezer HaRokeach came way before Moshe Cordovero.
Ah, got it. That makes sense. So yeah, if we're talking about a concept older than the book title, Pardes Rimonim, on a more general allegorical sense, it's kind of like an image of a lush, mystical orchard full of wisdom. The word Pardes itself is like a garden or orchard, and Rimonim are pomegranates, which are often symbols of abundance and mystical secrets in Jewish thought. So it's really just this rich metaphor for a spiritual garden of deep insights, something that the sages let you taste from, so to speak.
Interesting. Okay, so it's symbolic. Okay. Anyway, sounds good. Sounds really good. Thank you for the translation. You guys, thank you for the company. With God's help, we'll be back with you guys next couple videos. Other than that, good job everybody for sticking along and learning. And other than that, we'll see you guys with God's help in the next couple videos. Okay? Alright, you guys. Peace.